Um, Good day, everyone. On my blessed day. My apologies that I did not comment on the summary made by the coordinator of the month yesterday. It was quite a hectic weekend in Belgium, so I was on a flight, came home quite tired, and yeah, thanks to comrades in Belgium for the warm reception, and comrades from the UK, Ireland, and Germany who also attended. Thanks to our team in Norway that picked me up from the airport and brought me back home. And thanks to our national security team for the security guidance all through the visit. Thanks to all those in Belgium for the wonderful reception given our team. And we mobilized resources for bullets and rifles to defend our homeland. And as I have said repeatedly, that's the only thing we should be doing. I've been following discussions that you're having here, and it's interesting intellectual exchanges that we are having to educate, inform, and to deconstruct the narrative of the enemy. But our primary responsibility as soldiers of this war of liberation is to mobilize resources to continuously oil the wheel of the defense of our country. Every other thing must be secondary. And I know we have committed our lives and our treasures to ensure that we end this tyranny. And I commend all of you for doing that without blinking. And I will appeal that you continue to do that. These are dangerous moments. They are dangerous moments. And the only remedy we have is not so much on deconstructing the narrative, explaining our side. We have done well in the past 5 years in building a narrative on why this occupation must come to an end. Not only based on its illegality, but its impunity, its destabilizing effect in our land in the Gulf of Guinea, and the human toll it has in both Ambazonia and Cameroon. For 61 years, we've made a case. Nobody listened. We sent representatives to the UN. We made deputations to EU. I flew across the globe. I was in front of every embassy, including other comrades. Nobody cared. When we commissioned forces to fight back and design a strategy that would undermine Cameroon's insistence of the legitimacy of its presence, the world started listening. And that should tell all of us that what has brought us here is not the amount of speeches we've made, the narratives we've constructed, the fine arguments we've laid, the litigations we've made. What has brought us here are the number of arms we've put on the ground to wreak havoc on the enemy. And if we have identified the solution, we must not relent in ensuring that we multiply its effect. And that multiplication will require multiplication of the amount of firepower that we have on the ground. As per the review of the week, we've been discussing the indictment of Ambazonian US citizens in the United States, 3 of whom were taken into custody. And I made initial statements on that indictment and arrest. And I have laid out a broad-based understanding on how these things happen. I haven't had time to study the specific cases, but my assumption, as I explained in my preliminary reaction, is that crimes must have been committed within the United States of America. And everything that has been explained in the indictment is setting the scene, or say context, so that within that context, a specific case can be made, which I assume is that of conspiracy to kidnap for ransom. And the assumption I've made is that must have involved coercion of US citizens to pay money for the release of arrested or kidnapped relatives. That would be a clear violation of US law. All of our actions are justified in the defense of our land. But we must be very careful that we do not cross the line between justification and violation of the domestic laws of our host countries. I think we must continue to raise concerns about these indictments when we consider the amount of kidnappings, extortion, genocide that has been committed in our land, and there has neither been an independent fact-finding that has resulted in indictment of systematic brutality of those who have engaged in policy-driven systematic brutality. I think it is very important for Ambazonians to understand that these things happen in war, and they will continue to happen. We saw a couple of years ago, our comrades were also either indicted, taken into custody for issues of armed trafficking. I explained that within the context also of the Iran-Contra affair that involved former President Ronald Reagan. So it's not specifically dealing with issues of Ambazonia. That's a general legal principle within the United States, that you shall not traffic in arms without kind of the legal foundation to do so, or with countries or groups that have been proscribed by the United States or TAC as groups or states whose activities pose a threat to US national security. I do this so that we have a broader based understanding of these things, using these cases as context. These things will continue to happen as our citizens engage in foreign countries to make sure that they explain what is going on in our country, and they engage in different activities out of their passion. And I will not go further into that. The context within our struggle is somehow very toxic, and one must thread a very fine line. As I said, we are the only people who indict us all the time. We find a way to criminalize us. We have engaged in the past few years in creating media houses and social media platforms for the sole purpose of denigrating our nationalism in the name of fighting to destroy others. And I have warned long ago that these things will come to haunt us. When SCBC was created, it was used as a platform to perpetuate hate, attacks on the integrity, a systematic approach. ABC came to use the same method to attack the integrity of those who laid the foundation with the SCBC. ABS has been created to do the same thing. If the platforms we create has a short-term agenda, rather than focus on La Republique, it tends to focus on those who are making effort in their own ways to contribute towards our liberation. We must understand we are setting a precedent that may come to haunt us. I encourage all of you to remain focused on the big picture. We will have these squabbles, we will have misunderstanding. We must use our intellect. We must not enable through our actions or reactions, the activities or the objective of the enemy to infiltrate, to divide, and to perpetuate an international narrative that sees us as simply a disgruntled, agitative people without an agenda for freedom. We will continue to make the case to our people internationally of the choice they have between anarchy in Yaoundé, despondency, and hope in Ambazonian stability. I think the second issue we looked into is mobilization. As I've said in my intro, mobilization of resources is more critical at this particular moment, and everyone must really become engaged. Do not remain a bystander. Do not become a poster person, being reactionary and everything. Engage. Organize a dinner evening at your home. Invite friends, and mobilize monies for rifles and bullets. I think we must also engage in education. We should make audios to educate our people, to encourage our people, and to undermine the narrative of the enemy. I encourage you all to commit to the weekly contribution. Last month we mobilized, I think, 1,600. That's close to an AK. If we get more comrades to commit, we might double that this month. And by the 5th month, this community house must have mobilized enough funds to arm a small mobile unit, and that will be a huge contribution. Do not minimize your $10. Added together, it's going to make a huge difference, and I am definitely very sure that our strength also determines international reaction. I know I answered some questions yesterday from our comrade here about the perception of normalcy on the ground. And the comrade brought a very interesting example. That was Afghanistan. You know, we all sat here and watched a government in Kabul. We watched US presence in Bagram Air Base and different places. Helicopters and jet planes, thousands and thousands of soldiers. And we had a perception of absolute control, sense of normalcy, apart from some bombs time and again in Kabul, Herman, and other places. And one fine morning, just one fine morning, Kabul fell. So where were these guys? Where were the Taliban? That's the same scenario in Ambazonia. You may look at Bamenda, you look at Boya, and you are like, is there still war? There is war. There is war. We are in charge of most of the suburbs. La Republican simply just drive through a highway, through a stretch. They will be attacked. And if we continue to inject the resources, one fine morning, you will wake up to the presence of thousands of our forces in the center of Bamenda or in Boya. I recall vividly how we were preparing to assault Boya with thousands of people under General Ivo. We planned meticulously how to move from Kumba, take over Moyoka, go down towards my 17 and towards Munya, then climb our way into Boya. And I can assure everyone, if we do not relent, if we do not allow vexations to the spirit orchestrated deliberately by enemies of our nationalism and our liberation, one fine morning as you got up and saw the president of Afghanistan jet himself out of capital, an abandoned ship, and a couple of bearded guys took over the presidential palace with their rifles. That is how the end is going to play out. We are in charge of most of the suburbs. And I have warned against the perception that 5 years down the line, you are going to continuously have the same level of insecurity and chaos that we had 5 years ago. No, it's not going to happen. You are going to sometimes have a sense of normalcy, and then it's going to be chaos, normalcy, and one morning, you know, you're going to have what you've been fighting and dreaming for. I thank each and every one of you who continue to commit in a way that has made a difference in the lives of our people and has given them a lot of hope. We may undermine or minimize what we do, but it is because of what we do that we are here. And it is going to be because of what we continue to do that will make us be where we want to be and take our people to. All right. Have a pleasant day.